US President Donald Trump declaring that he will suspend immigration into the United States via an executive order. The US president on Twitter said that's in response to the coronavirus pandemic, referring to COVID-19 as the invisible enemy. Mr. Trump added that he has to protect American jobs. The announcement drew swift condemnation from some in the US Democratic Party there, who accused Mr. Trump of distracting people from what they describe as his faulty response to the outbreak. John Hendren has more from Chicago.
The president issued this tweet in the dark of night, and he seemed to do that for good reason. He could have made this announcement at his daily news conference where he talks about the coronavirus and all of the actions the administration is taking. But by issuing this mysterious tweet late on a Monday night, he gets the morning news cycles where the newspapers and the morning shows talk about what he's had to say. And then in the afternoon, he gets another round where he explains what his policy is, and then it gets digested and analyzed again. And the president wants to show that he's doing something. The Centers for Disease Control just a month ago, in a little-known action, issued an order that allowed the United States to stop people at the border who didn't have the proper papers. And because of the pandemic, that order allows them to send people back summarily. No court hearing, no chance for asylum. They're sent back automatically. And now the president is expanding that to include any immigration from anywhere.
OK, let's bring in Thomas Gift. He specialises in US politics. He's a lecturer at University College London. Thomas, welcome back to the News Hour here on Al Jazeera. So he wants to safeguard 22 million jobs that have already disappeared. What's he safeguarding?
Well, I think that this is more about optics than it is about economics. There's certainly a conceptual difference here between shutting down borders from external travel, which many countries, of course, have done to isolate and contain the spread of COVID-19, and actually making substantive reforms to immigration policy. Trump does insist that suspending immigration is meant to protect jobs in the U.S. as unemployment has escalated. Economists can debate that. But I think largely what Trump is trying to do is exploit a political opportunity here. Of course, a stricter immigration policy has been one of the president's marquee issues since he entered the White House, as reflected by his national emergency that he declared to build a U.S.-Mexico border wall, his effort to temporarily ban immigration from Muslim-majority countries, and so on. And so I think that this effort very much plays into that narrative, and he thinks that it's a political winner among his conservative base.
He tweeted in the middle of the night, his time, Washington time. Does that mean that we will see a not dissimilar process to a process we've seen before, say, when it comes to his foreign policy on Twitter? There is a distinct rowing back, and somebody will give us clarity on this over the coming couple of days.
That's very possible. I mean, there is a lot of uncertainty about what he actually meant by the substance of his tweet, just because, oftentimes these tend to be so cryptic. So we may see either a walking back of this by some officials within his administration, or he may decide to just press ahead with this as he intended. And so at this point, there's just a lot of uncertainty and a lot of clarity that hopefully will be getting more of in the coming days.
How do you think this will go down with his base?
Well, I think that this will go well with his base because, again, this very much fits into the broader political narrative of kind of a skeptical or hardline stance toward immigration. But, of course, it's also going to elicit a lot of criticism from Democrats that they are going to portray this as an instance of xenophobic blame shifting. They're already suggesting that this is an example of Trump trying to find a scapegoat for what they perceive as a mishandling of the crisis so far. And so it probably is going to play well among conservatives, and I think it's going to play equally less well among liberals, which is consistent with this polarization that we've seen in the Trump presidency.
Forgive me, Thomas, if my next question sounds slightly naive and quite tabloid, I guess, in a way. But, the pictures that are coming out of America now, yesterday, looking on social media, we have nurses wearing face masks and their ICU nursing uniforms, squaring off against demonstrators, protesters in trucks, wearing paramilitary outfits, shouting and pumping their horns. Are there parts of America where Americans are beginning to lose the plot over this?
Well, I think that that's a really apt description. At the same time, you're hoping that some of these instances are more isolated than that. And of course, there's a tendency to kind of focus on these particular pictures and these particular images. But certainly, I think if anything, COVID-19 is further entrenching a lot of the polarization that we've already witnessed in the United States over the past 3.5 years over the Trump presidency. And I think going forward, there's no reason to think that we're going to see anything except for that.
And is Mr. Trump, do you think, can he maintain his position, which he seems to be squaring off against individual states' governors, or he certainly seems prepared to signal to them that he will, talking about time to liberate? I think it was 3 states that he mentioned on Twitter, 4 days ago now. That's very strong language, very authoritarian language.
It is quite provocative, to say the least. And Trump continues to insist essentially that he has full authority over when and how the various states open up in the coming potentially weeks or months. The reality, however, is that under the federalist U.S. system, a lot of these decisions, the purview for those kinds of choices are actually left to the individual governor. So there's also going to be very much a political battle over these questions as well.
Thomas, great to talk to you as ever. Many thanks.